I was 16 years old when I first learned how thin the line is between safety and danger. My parents had left town for the weekend to help my pregnant aunt, leaving me alone in our quiet house in Fort Collins, Colorado. The neighborhood was peaceful, the kind of place where nothing bad ever seemed to happen, and that made me feel brave enough to say yes when they asked if I'd be okay on my own. Deep inside, though, I wasn't just brave, I was excited, because that night I was waiting for someone who made my heart race in a good way. My boyfriend Rory and I had been together for months, and this was the first time we would be alone without parents around. We whispered on the phone after my dad left, laughing softly and planning his secret visit. He promised to come after midnight, once his parents were asleep. I gave him the door code so he wouldn't have to ring the bell. When I hung up, my hands were shaking, not from fear, but from nervous excitement. I checked every door and window, locked everything, and turned off the lights downstairs. The house became silent, almost too silent. Lying in bed, I listened to the fridge hum and the clock tick, each sound louder than it should have been. The quiet felt heavy, like the house was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. I wore a blue nightdress and waited, imagining Rory walking into my room. At some point, I drifted into sleep. When I woke up, I didn't know why, but something felt wrong. The air felt different. I slowly opened my eyes, and that was when I heard my bedroom door gently creak open. I smiled into my pillow, thinking Rory had finally arrived. I called his name softly. He didn't answer. I felt someone sit on my bed, the mattress dipping beside me. Fingers brushed against my arm, slow and careful. I laughed quietly and told him to lie down, but he stayed sitting, completely silent. I reached back to grab his arm, expecting Rory's warm skin. Instead, I felt something thick, rough, and covered in hair. My body went cold. Slowly, I turned around, and the smile died on my face. The man on my bed was not my boyfriend. He was much older, with tired eyes and thinning hair. He was smiling in a way that made my stomach twist. I screamed. He told me to be quiet, saying he only wanted to watch me sleep. Then I realized who he was, our neighbor, Mr. Paulson. I screamed louder and he panicked. He tried to leave just as my bedroom door opened again. Rory stood there, holding his phone. Before he could react, Mr. Paulson punched him hard and ran past him down the stairs and out of the house. Rory lay on the floor bleeding as I called 911, my hands shaking. He was taken to the hospital with a broken nose and a concussion. The police later arrested Mr. Paulson. He had been watching me for days and learned the door code by listening through our kitchen window.
That night changed me forever. I realized how easily someone I trusted could become a monster. Even now, I still think about how close I came to something far worse happening in that quiet house.
Two years after what happened in that house, I was living alone in an old apartment building in Bellingham, Washington. The building was quiet, the kind of place where the pipes knocked at night and the hallway lights flickered, but nothing bad ever seemed to happen. That was why I liked it. Still, being alone at night always made the silence feel heavier, like the walls were listening. One night, just before midnight, I walked to the corner store to buy cigarettes. The streets were empty and cold, and my footsteps sounded too loud against the pavement. When I came back, I stopped outside the front door of my building, digging through my pockets for my keys, when a strange feeling made me freeze. I felt like someone was watching me. I looked around, expecting to see someone behind me, but there was no one there. The street was silent. Then, without knowing why, I slowly lifted my eyes and looked up toward the building. On the third floor, on the balcony outside Mr. Newton's apartment, I saw a woman standing still. She wore a thin white bathrobe that moved slightly in the cold wind.
Her long hair covered part of her face, and the pale moonlight made her skin look strangely washed out, almost unreal. She wasn't leaning on the railing. She was just standing there, staring down at me with a quiet smile that made my skin crawl. Feeling awkward, I raised my hand and gave her a small wave. Slowly, carefully, she waved back. For a moment, it felt like she was calling me to her, though she never spoke a word. Goosebumps ran up my neck. Then she turned and walked back into the dark apartment, disappearing behind the glass door. I unlocked the building door and stepped inside, telling myself it was just Mr. Newton's wife getting some air. But as soon as the door closed behind me, a horrible thought hit me. His wife had died only weeks before. He lived alone now. My heart began to race as I ran up the stairs. When I reached the third floor, Mr. Newton's door was slightly open. Inside, the apartment was dark, and the smell of something metallic filled the air. I saw broken glass and dark stains on the floor. I called 911 as I stepped inside. From the bedroom, I heard a muffled sound, like someone trying to breathe through something thick. I followed the noise until the closet door suddenly burst open, and Mr. Newton fell out, tied up and bleeding, but alive. The police later said 2 men had attacked him. When I asked about the woman on the balcony, Mr. Newton looked confused and said there was no woman. Days later, I saw him moving out, carrying a white bathrobe, the same one his late wife used to wear. I never looked at that balcony the same way again. My dog Ranger died this morning. He was old, his fur had turned gray, and his legs had started to shake when he walked. The vet said he went peacefully in his sleep, but when I brought his collar home, the house felt too quiet. That silence pulled me back to the first night when Ranger truly saved my life. I was 9 years old, living with my parents in a small house in Bozeman, Montana. That night, they went out for a business dinner and told me to lock the doors and keep Ranger inside. Outside, the wind moved through the trees, making the shadows dance across the walls. Ranger slept at the foot of my bed. He was a strong German shepherd, always alert. The house made strange noises, pipes knocking, wood creaking, and branches scraping the walls. Ranger kept lifting his head, listening to something I couldn't hear. Then I heard the back door. The latch moved slowly. Footsteps entered the kitchen. A shadow slid under my bedroom door. Someone was inside the house. The door creaked open. A tall man stood there, half lit by the hallway light. He stared at me, then rushed forward and grabbed my arm, telling me I was coming with him. I screamed as he dragged me out of bed. Ranger charged down the stairs, barking and attacking the man. His teeth clamped onto the man's arm, and the man shouted in pain. Ranger refused to let go, even as the man tried to shake him off. The man lifted Ranger and threw him outside through the back door. I heard my dog hit the ground and cry out once before going silent. That was when I screamed as loud as I could. Lights turned on in the neighbors' houses. Someone shouted. The man froze for a moment, then ran away into the dark. I ran outside and found Ranger lying on the ground, breathing, but badly hurt. Ranger survived, even with broken ribs. He stayed by my side for the rest of his life, through school, through growing up, through everything. He never left me alone again. Now he is gone, but I believe he is still watching, still standing between me and the darkness, just like he did that night long ago. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe my channel. See you on next videos. Till then, goodbye.